Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
Good evening, our fellow lovers out there. Thank you for joining us on yet another journey through. Really? Stop it. Now you've got me. I'm bad enough in the intros. I don't need you all distracting me. Thanks a lot there. I was actually on a roll.
I'm sorry.
I am never.
We should clue everyone in right before we went on. I mean, the intro was playing. I said we should hold hands.
You know, the people on the live stream actually caught that remark.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. So the live stream will replay. You actually will catch that remark just as we go, just before it clicks. Anyway, long story short. Hi again. Welcome back to Late Night Love. Sorry for that short interruption by the lubby loving me. So, in this episode of Late Night Love, we're delving into the intricate web of relationships, from canceled plans to unexpected pros and cons lists. We'll explore the highs and lows of love. Join us to discuss jealousy, financial expectations, and moving in with guy friends. Plus, we tackle parenting challenges, including edible mishaps and the loneliness of fatherhood. Don't miss our workplace segment where we navigate boundaries, awkward questions, and coworker tensions. So tune in for this week's heartfelt conversations and relatable stories that'll keep you coming back for more. But before we get started with all that, and also there's a spicier segment for those of you who are who are listening to us on KUBU 96.5 FM. You're gonna have to go find us online to catch the spicier segment at the very end, because
intimate questions.
Yeah, more questions on intimacy and those types of issues, things we can't easily discuss on the air.
Yeah.
Over the airwaves. But before that, we're going to talk about something that is more and more in the news. Let me remove that. There's this thought that social media use is harmful for teenagers' mental health, everybody's mental health. But the reality is the data doesn't back it up. Long-term data out of Norway, and data, those studies where people combine all the various studies and then look at the combined effects of all these things. And the data just isn't there that social media is the cause. And let's think about this for a minute. It's anytime someone gives you a very simplistic answer to a wide social issue, you should be very skeptical. Oh, it's just social media is the problem. Well, there's lots of things going on in young people's lives and all of our lives since the invention of the internet and social media. It also happened to be post 9/11. We've had two major educational reforms stacked right on top of each other that completely changed the relationship between the student and the schools, right? We've had massive economic upheavals, two of them at this point.
Yeah.
And so to simply say, oh, it's social media, from someone who plays with history, you can look back and this is the same song and dance that we've heard time and time again throughout history. There was a time when this very same argument was said about books, access to reading. There was a time when they said this very same argument about radio, and then rock and roll, and then TV, and then movies, then TV, right? Go down the list, then talk radio. Then, right, it's always something new. There's always some simplistic thing to blame for the current ills of society. And the reality is, it's not that easy. You take all these things together and you start understanding why. These kids are being pulled in a million different ways, and no one knows how to navigate these things. It's never been done before. But the story of that is every generation does the same thing. We're all going through things that have never been done before. From the invention of the horse and buggy to the car, riding a horse and having a buggy was a big, huge thing. It was a massive change for society. We went from walking, or maybe riding a horse, but that was only a handful of cultures actually did that. Most people walked. Having a horse, then having transportation where 4 of you could get in a carriage and pack all your stuff and go across country. That was never been done before. And people had to navigate that. And there's also the period, that's the same period of time where we are becoming more accepting of acknowledging our mental health issues. We're encouraging people to speak up and to seek assistance. People are more likely to, when they answer a survey, to say, yeah, I had an anxiety attack a couple months ago. Yeah, but they've moved on from it. It's a sign that they should be careful moving forward, but it's not necessarily a sign of a mental health issue at the moment, right? Lots of people have an anxiety attack for sometimes legitimate reasons. You have a test coming up and you haven't prepared, or you've over prepared for a test and blown circuits in your brain, right? Theoretically, both of these things can happen. And so I just think we should all be more careful before we fall for simplistic answers to questions. There's a reason here that sometimes it seems like I hedge my bets when we answer questions, and it's because we do. It's because the things we don't know are greater than the things we do. And so you should always be careful to acknowledge that there are potentials out there that you cannot see or do not know. Okay, so we actually want to know, if you want to send your questions or comments to us, you can send them to love@latenightLove.us, and you can find all past shows and everything on the various, YouTube, Facebook, all those other various, Rumble, I forget what else we're on, Spotify, or the easy way is to just go to latenightLove.us and you can find everything there. Okay, so what are we starting with tonight, Bobby?
Well, we can start with relationships.
Sounds good to me. All right.
All right. My girlfriend refused to reimburse me after she canceled a plan that I'd already paid for. Okay. He pays for a weekend at a posh resort with the room, all meals included. They got some booze, they got a massage.
Okay, so why'd you cancel?
9 yards. She just didn't want to go. She changed her mind.
My guess is they're having relationship problems, and you're going to have to deal with those. Say sometimes, these things, you take a loss, but if she just changes her mind and doesn't want to go, there's an underlying reason. And it may be simply she's not feeling good, she's stressed, whatever it is, but there's an underlying reason. And generally speaking, it's not good.
Well, no, it usually isn't when it's just, I don't really feel like it.
Yeah. Now, if she didn't want to go in the first place and you kind of pressured her into going, okay, fine, we can go. But usually this kind of thing is the other way around, right? It's the man who doesn't want to go and kind of reluctantly goes along and whatnot. But
well, he found a really great deal.
Well, he may not have wanted to go and always not wanted to go. And he's not mentioning that part in her thing. And she kind of reluctantly agreed. Now that it's actually time to go, she just goes, I just really never wanted to go in the first place. And I can't. So there is some underlying relationship issue and at hand here. And that's far more important to deal with than whatever financial loss you may or may not have taken. Sometimes you just take a loss in relationships, plans happen and it is what it is. Life's like that sometimes, but there's an underlying issue in that relationship. I'm willing to bet that needs to be addressed. Is the real issue.
Okay.
All right. Next.
My girlfriend made pros and cons list of me and I accidentally saw it. Okay. Now, usually when somebody makes a pros and cons list, it's at the suggestion, or we read it in a magazine, or something like that.
Or she's contemplating a big life decision. And
She may be thinking about marrying you.
yeah, or something of that nature,
Mhm.
right? Or her biological clock may be ticking and she's trying to make a decision. And so it's one of these things. It's actually best if you could pretend you never saw it and just move on, because you really don't know the purpose of it. It could just be a silly magazine thing she filled out, didn't really think three things about it. Maybe she's got a therapist and her therapist asked her to do it just so she can try to remember why she loves you. There's 100 things that it could be, and you're only guessing.
Only guessing.
And you could bring it up, but there's dangers in bringing it up. But there's also, risk rewards. Of course, the question is, how did you accidentally see it? Was it generally accident, or were you looking through were you snooping and found it? I mean, she just left it on her desk, and you just happened to see it. Well, that's a vastly different thing than she left it on the kitchen table and you just happened to see it. Well, then you go, wait, so what magazine? There's actually a good way. So what magazine article were you reading when you did this thing? And there's another thing, sometimes it might be good news that you see on that list. The list itself isn't really the issue. Everybody's going to have cons.
Well, he focused on the cons in the longer Reddit thing.
Yeah.
It was a long list of the cons. He did not mention any of the pros. He focused entirely on the cons.
Well, maybe there's some, I would actually also focus on the pros a little bit, but maybe you can learn something about yourself. Maybe there's some room for growth in that list. Maybe some of it's personal taste and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe she doesn't like it's got a hairy back. What can you do about that, right? She loves him despite of it, kind of thing. Or she snores too loud. Well, he snores too loud. It happens. What are you going to do? People deal with that kind of thing all the time. Those aren't, they just are. But, if you've got.
Well, it was things like he's a little bit passive.
Okay, then she wants you. That's not necessarily bad things. It just means she'd like you to be a little more, now, because aggressive is the wrong word. I don't think aggressive is what she's necessarily looking for.
Opinionated.
I don't even know.
Give your opinion.
Yeah, just don't be so afraid to express yourself on that kind of thing. But there's some places to learn in there, in that con list. But also, balance those out. If the biggest complaints are things like, he's a little bit of passive and those are things you can actually work on and they're not deal breakers. If the things are, well, he's prone to anger, well, then you've got bigger issues. Right? He's prone to anger. He's a bit of a jerk. Those are bigger issues than things like, I wish he wasn't such a, I wish he would stand up for himself more, like in, situations where he'll just, instead of going back and getting his hamburger fixed, he's just going to say, screw it. I'll just take off the stuff that he messed up and eat it anyway, because I don't want to deal with having to return it. That kind of thing. He's one of those people who doesn't like to return things because he doesn't want to deal with confrontation. Okay, we'll take a class in confrontation. There's things you can do for that kind of thing. And it'd be good for you, right? Take a class on negotiation, that kind of thing. So, but I don't know. I'd focus on the overall tone of the list. If she's nitpicking on the con list, but the pro list is full of, big philosophical things, then you're good, man. Because she's having to nitpick in order to find things, right?
Yeah.
If she's got big, huge complaints, it's a short list, right? Prone to anger, yells too much, whatever the thing is, it's a short list. The fact that she's nitpicking with kind of a long list of minor things, that means you're fine in the grand scheme of things. She's sitting here looking for things. And of course, if someone looks at you, good Lord, they can find out. It's another human being you're spending a bunch of time with. Of course, you can find a bunch of things that if you really think about it, irritate you. But you don't think about those things in long-term relationships because you realize they're stupid.
Yeah.
That's not what you're going to spend your time focusing on.
And here's another thing.
Uh-huh.
You just may have one or two things that you do that I do that may irritate you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How much of you don't want him making a pros and cons list, do you?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We
All
don't. We don't like that. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No. Okay. What's next?
Okay. Is it normal that my boyfriend doesn't like it when I walk around the house naked? Okay. He likes it in the bedroom.
Uh-huh.
He's enthusiastic.
Well, of course.
They sleep naked the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. He's probably grew up in a house where that kind of thing just wasn't. So he's just not used to it. He'll deal with it. He's not going to dislike it enough for it to be a thing. Just let it be. Yeah. He'll get used to it. It's my suggestion. Keep the curtains closed and let him get used to it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. It's one of those things that he's just not experienced with people who are that open that they can walk around the house naked. Maybe because he grew up in a big family, and so that kind of thing simply wasn't done. It just everybody was very closely modest, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just out of his realm of experience. He'll get used to it. Okay, what's next?
Why did my wife threaten to divorce me over a fridge?
It's not the fridge.
It's never the fridge.
No, the fridge is representing something else. It's what is it? The straw that breaks the camel's back is rarely very heavy. That's why the fridge doesn't make sense. Because it's not the fridge, it's everything else. So the fridge is representative of the state of your relationship. Broken. Sadly, it's not the fridge. And the fact that you don't realize that is probably part of the problem. My guess is she's explained it to you before, and for whatever reason you couldn't hear. Maybe she couldn't explain it in a way that you could understand.
And this is a long distance marriage.
Oh, well, and that add the strain of that as well. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's just making everything more difficult.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the problem, it's not the fridge. The problems are everything else. The fridge was just the excuse she used to pull the trigger. Sorry to be the one to tell you. Okay, what's next?
Okay. My girlfriend is moving in with her guy friend, who is also her gym partner. She claims I'm jealous, but I'm just addressing the elephant in the room. Is this not preferred behavior to address the elephant in the room?
Well, addressing it is fine, but it is what it is, and you either trust her or you don't. Because people need compatible people to share rent with. In these days, especially in the metropolitan areas, and they're not young; they're 29 and 28. The question is, why isn't she moving in with you? Are they live in different cities? It's a long distance relationship.
No.
And so there's the question: why, when she needs a roommate, is she going finding someone other than you?
You. What's going on?
Yeah. So that's the other question. Maybe your relationship isn't as firm as you want, and it's got nothing to do with her guy friend or gym partner or her roommates. People have roommates all the time. And the fact that they're gym partners or whatever just means they know they're at least superficially compatible to live with each other. See how long that lasts.
Yeah.
But it's just any roommates, right? It's not. So anyway, no, but addressing it in the room is actually required in a relationship. So whether you're jealous or not is irrelevant. It still needs to be dealt with, and just dismissing it as jealous is actually an issue, but that's its own issue.
It is. It's a separate issue.
Yeah.
I would not let that one go.
No, that one you want to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a different issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
All right. My girlfriend's parents want me to provide for her, and I don't know what to think. Okay, now let's put this in perspective. He's 18.
Okay, she's 18, he's 19. But remember, in many cultures, that's what it's expected. You're off at 19, you're paired up, and off you go. And you know, the man is supposed to provide for the woman. Essentially, they want you to marry this young woman, and off in life you go. You don't have to, but that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's probably cultural, if I were to take a guess.
Yeah.
So, and you and her are going to have a discussion. Now, you can tell her parents, there's many ways to tell the parents to, pound sand essentially, but, you're going to have to deal with what the expectations are long-term and what your wants are long-term. Because my guess is she is culturally not used to a long courtship. So you're going to have to decide. Okay, what's next?
Okay. Boyfriend wants to add father to the deed. I was not told beforehand. Could I have some fresh third person input? Okay. The father was the boyfriend pays for everything.
Uh-huh.
And the father wanted her to not be on the deed in the first place, but the boyfriend said no. I want her on the deed.
Uh-huh.
So she's on the deed. So now the father says, well, put me on the deed too.
Does the father have some financial implication? Does he
No.
give him a down payment or something?
No.
No?
Nothing.
You could actually understand his desire to protect his son's assets, but that's not what this is going to do anyway. No. So, I wouldn't worry a whole hell of a lot about it. It's actually putting the father in some extra tax implications. It's just creating a complicated mess. But it's a complicated mess. And since you're not actually physically paying into it, it's kind of your boyfriend's complicated mess to deal with. And if that's what he wants to do, the person with the gold, sets the rules on situations like this. You don't have to like it, but, is it a deal breaker for you is the question. So, I don't know. Now the fact that you weren't told, if you were already on the deed, I'm not sure they can actually do that, but that's depending upon the, where you were at in the process of buying the house. But on the other upside of that, it also puts him on the hook if something should happen where, for payments wise and whatnot. So I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't worry about it all that much, but I get why she's offended as well. Sounds to me like her boyfriend is having trouble setting boundaries. So, but as many people in their mid-20s, they're both 25, do setting boundaries with their parents. So, and that father may be having more say in his finances than is being let on. Would be my guess as well. Okay.
Now we have parenting questions.
All right, on to parenting.
My son is addicted to a game. How do I delete it?
You don't, because then you're just going to be fighting. You're setting up an issue where you're fighting. If he's genuinely addicted, you send him to counseling and you let the counselor deal with how to do that. You don't do that on your own. If he's playing the game more often than you like, that's a different thing. It's not an addiction. He's playing games more often than you would like. Don't call it an addiction so you can justify extreme behavior on your side. It's not the proper way to deal with it. He's a teenager. You need to respect his growth, his autonomy, while also setting boundaries, right? And you have the discussions with it. You make agreements. And if he's having trouble, setting his own boundaries, you can help him. You can turn off internet access to his computer and room on the modem, but you agree to this. You have him agree to it. Say, look, at 11:30, we're going to turn off internet access to you, so you can't, right? Because it's time to go to bed. It's time to shut down. Okay?
Yeah.
And you have him agree to it. You don't just do it. But, if he's hitting his other agreements, if he's doing his chores and he's, passing school and all that kind of stuff, then you leave him alone. He's being prepared. He's preparing for a world you don't know how to prepare him for. Let him do it. What you call playing games, these days they call networking. It's what's happening. It just looks different than what we're used to. So stop imprinting, your past onto him. He's got to learn to navigate the world. Let him do it. Assuming the rest of his life is in order, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
My teen took an entire 400 milligram edible. How was your week? Now, she wants to know if she should punish him. Now, he's 17. He's almost 18, right? And it was 420.
Yeah.
And he believes he's being responsible by being full disclosure with his mom.
Yeah, okay, there's an argument for that.
So he has let her know that he sometimes smokes with his friends. Okay, smokes weed.
But you got to give her credit for creating an environment where he feels at least comfortable discussing this with her.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll give her credit for that.
And he'll have a beer every once in a while, but he's waiting to hit the hard stuff until he turns 21. He made that decision. Okay. And he decided on 420 to do this 400 milligram brownie. So he ate it and he went and told her, hey, if I, pass out or something like that,
I'm just sleeping.
I'm not dead.
Okay. And so he ended up slept for the next 16 hours is essentially
what he did.
He learned his own lesson. So I don't think there's much punishment you need to give him, right? But I would have a discussion that as a young person, and life is difficult enough, and adding difficulties to it is not a good idea. So doing things like drinking or even, smoking marijuana as a 17-year-old is not a great idea.
No. He thinks he's being responsible by telling her all this stuff.
Well, yes, it's more responsible than not telling her. Yeah, but it's still not the best choice.
No, he should wait.
But he's also at this age where he's at in 6 months, he's going to be making these choices anyway.
Exactly.
And so at least he is setting himself up with where he's making deliberate decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of got to give him credit for that. I think the most you do is you lecture him about the generic lectures about, life is hard enough and you don't add these things to your life is the best course of action is of all. I think that's where you stick it as a parent, because you don't want to create the conditions where he doesn't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough one. If he was 14 or 15, it's a different discussion. But the fact that he's 17, you're right there at that transition, and so you got to help him navigate that transition. So, but I give her kudos. She's created an environment where her son is willing to talk to her about issues that most children aren't. So, congratulations. You know, they're not always going to make decisions that you would like them to, but at least he's thinking these things through. And he's not making terrible decisions as far as we know. He's being as responsible as you can be at that age. I wouldn't suggest it, but anyway.
But you're going to have a difficult conversation.
Well, my guess is
Yeah.
they have, which is why he's making this, right?
He's making these choices.
The way
Yeah,
he
but he
is.
needs to hear it again.
Yeah. It just needs
Yeah.
to pound that you're better off, avoiding these things entirely. Your whole life, you're better off. It's because, making life more complicated, expensive, blah, 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 blah. You can go on for hours. So, okay. What's next?
Does anybody else's school send an opt-out letter for unsafe touch talk?
Most schools probably do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, because some parents don't want school officials or whatnot. Those are discussions they would like to have instead of some impersonal educational form. So yeah, that's just kind of fairly routine. Okay, what's next?
Okay, who knew fatherhood was so lonely? Okay, the baby is 6 weeks old. And mom's full attention is on la bebe.
Okay, did you not hear what people were telling you before? For the first 6-9 months, you are support officer. That's your job, right? You are the nameless logistics officer who simply does what you're told, because it's all about supporting mother and child. And the best thing you can do is support mother and child. So you do that job and you do it, with the bells on, with a smile, with the cheer, because that's the best way you can support. It just is. But fatherhood itself is lonely, or it can be, because the father that fathers best fathers least. You're not seen, but you're always there. You're always encouraging your children to go off and do things on their own, but you're watching. You give them guidance along the way, but you're not seen. You know, your kids, the success isn't yours, it's theirs. And so you're not seen. But the thing about fatherhood is you don't need to be seen. If no one knows what you've done, you're perfectly happy with that. In fact, it's better off that way. You prefer it that way because then they think they've done it by themselves. And that's the greatest gift you can give them. So you do it. So embrace the loneliness, because that's what we call success. And you get thanked by your grandkids. So what's next?
13-year-old son wants girlfriend to sleep over at our house.
Well, that's actually not uncommon. It's actually more common now than it would have happened before ours, but it doesn't even compute to people of our generation or older, does it? No. But it can be done safely, frankly. It's been done safely before. You can do it again. I wouldn't recommend it, but it can be done. Yeah, especially if they've got other brothers and sisters. You just make them sleep in the living room or something, and
Everybody.
the brothers and sisters won't leave them alone. You don't even have to have it as a rule. It just will happen. So, I mean, you could do it that way, but I wouldn't. It'd be my suggestion. It's just, but I'm old. I'm out of the thing. Otherwise, yeah, it can be done safely if you really want to. Depends how much you trust your son and girlfriend. But I'd be surprised if you could get both parents to agree to that. Honestly, have a conversation with her parents would be my other suggestion. make sure that they've also agreed to this. Now, you may be the first ones to be asked because you're the easier parent. So this is one of those things that may not happen even if you agree to it. So you could actually agree to it and be the put the pressure on the other parents to say no.
What? Yeah. What do the other parents have to say about this?
That would
you
be my
know?
question. But you could cop out. There's no way in hell her parents are going to let her do that. Yeah, sure, why not? If her parents agree to it, have her call me. It's fine. It's never going to happen. It's entirely possible, but that's actually also a dangerous one because she may have parents that don't give a. So, all right, what's next?
One of my 3-year-olds stop hating on me. Okay, this is a woman. The 3-year-old little boy, his dad, he thinks his dad is just it,
Yeah,
and he won't listen to his mom.
yeah.
Well, when's he gonna quit it?
As soon as you learn to stand up to him properly. The reason he listens to his dad is because he knows that there's consequences if he says no to his dad if he doesn't listen. He knows there's no consequences if he doesn't listen to you. So he's not going to. And the consequences may simply be the scary dad voice, right? And he just doesn't want to hear that. So you may need to get your scary mom voice. Don't know what it is. I don't know the thing of the house, but that's why there are 3. They don't have sophisticated thinking, right? They don't push dad because dad doesn't push. They push mom because mom push. If it's a little girl, guess what? It works the other way. It just does. So, yeah, that one's you. You got to develop your scary mom voice. Stop saying yes so often. These things are self-inflicted. Now, if you didn't listen to either parent, all right, then it's a thing. Then there's maybe a child development issue. But now, since he'll listen to the father, he'll listen to you. You just have to see what the father does that you don't.
Mhm.
Sometimes dads know what they're talking about. No, this guy's a little hard-headed, man. You've got to be a little more forceful. Other kids, you can look at them cross-eyed and they're going to do what you want because it gets the disappointment or whatever. So just figure out what your father is doing that's successful. And, my suggestion is you don't have to say no sometimes. Just say no. So he gets used to you saying no and meaning it. Even if you're okay with saying yes. I had to do that with my kids. Sometimes I go like 2 weeks saying yes, yes, yes. No, I got to say no a couple times just so they know. Just, yeah. Sometimes you get told no because you've been told yes too many times in a row. Yep.
That's so arbitrary.
Yes, it is. Welcome to the world.
So wrong.
No, it's not. It's called preparing you for the world. You're not always going to get what you want. And sometimes I could give you what you want, but you know what? You've gotten too much of what you wanted recently, so you're going to be told no. Sorry. Parenting 101. Okay, what's next?
How do you get through the daily tantrums and screaming?
What, toddlers?
Yeah.
Yeah. You just get through the daily tantrums and screaming. They're not reflexive of anything but the toddlers' emotional yo-yoing. That's all it really is.
It's all, yeah.
Toddlers only know, emotions, and they're either fully on or fully off. They don't know how to regulate them yet. That's what they're learning, and they can't learn until they, experience them. It's just part of the process. You can help them, maybe get a little better at helping them through their emotions. My thing was I always would let them get it out, sit there 30 seconds, depending upon how, genuinely emotional the thing it really is. If it was kind of a fake emotional thing, it would a few seconds. If it was a real emotional thing, I'd let them get it out for a minute or so. But okay, that's enough. Let's go. You'd be surprised how well that works. Okay, that's enough. Come on. And then you go off and you distract them with something else because they're toddlers. They're easy to distract. Shiny things, give them a cracker, whatever it is. But you allow themselves to express them, then you give them an opportunity to learn how to regulate themselves afterwards. So, it's my suggestion. Okay, what's next?
Is it rude to have a small cake at a 5-year-old's birthday party but hand out cupcakes instead?
No, you just do what you do. It's perfectly fine.
Because she didn't want the blowing of the candle
People
and the cutting of she didn't want the hassle
No.
of cutting the cake.
I completely understand. You can do it however you wish. It's your birthday party. If you want to give the birthday boy a cupcake with a candle on it, great. And have everybody gets cupcakes, great. If you want to give the birthday boy a big flat sheet of chocolate cake with the numbers on it and his names and everybody else gets a cupcake and he just shoves his face in it, it's fine. It's what you want to do. That was perfectly fine. I do want to point out that people have been blowing on the top of cakes for generations, and we never started pandemics. So I somehow think that the blowing out of the candles isn't some epicenter of spreading disease. Just guessing. It's been going on for a long time. Okay, what's next?
My daughter's school called and says she hasn't been to school in 2 weeks, but she comes home every night. What should I do?
Find out why she despises school. Because that's what's actually happening. She's showing you that she doesn't like school. Maybe she's being bullied. Maybe the environment's wrong. Maybe she's so far behind she's given up. Who knows? But that's the question you want to ask. Because if you don't answer that question, anything you do past that is you're just spitting in the wind. You got to answer that question. Maybe she's bored. Who knows? There's 100 potential answers, but you've got to find out which one it is so you can solve it properly. So that's what you got to do. You got to sit down and ask her why. And she's going to resist telling you why for a little while. It's okay. Don't get angry. It's be my suggestion, because then you're going to build up walls. You go in with concern. Because you go in angry, looking for to punish her or whatever. You're going to make this harder. To go in trying to solve her problem instead of punishing her. My suggestion. Okay, we're on to work questions. So what do we got?
I have a good employee who goes home early by 30 minutes, 3 times a week to pick up our children. Work has been busier. I need everyone to be committed. Should I fire her?
Okay, so here's the question. You want them to be committed to you, but you're not willing to be committed to them. That seems to me like an unfair, you're asking more than you're giving. And I mean, if she's a good employee, I think you find ways to adjust her schedule, which you have. Just because if you're busier doesn't mean you can put more work on your employees. They can only do so much. So, she is committed, but you can't expect somebody to be more committed to their job than they are to their family. It's not how a life works. You can't expect someone to be more committed to you than you are to them. That's not how relationships work. So, no. Actually, if anything, you should figure out if there's some way you can accommodate her schedule even better. Maybe she's just losing out on an hour and a half a week's pay. Maybe she can take a shorter lunch or come in a half an hour early on those days and get work done. Depending upon the type of work she does. Sometimes it's not possible to do that, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're on a production line or something, but if you're on a production line or something, you usually can't leave 30 minutes early either. So if this was good enough before, it's good enough now. You treat your employees well, like human beings, and they will be loyal to you because you are loyal to them. Okay, what's next?
I'm on time every day, work at a fast pace, do everything correctly, get complimented on my work, but I always get fired within the first few weeks and get told it's nothing to do with my work. I'm just not the right fit. Why does this keep happening?
Because there's something about your personality that is grating on other people. I don't know what it is, right? You're going to have to spend some time in front of the mirror, ask some close friends, have some difficult conversations with the people who let you go. And maybe it's something as you're too quiet. You're working with a bunch of people where communication, and a job above yours is important. And more, it's not just about the tasks you do. Especially in smaller organizations, it's about the culture. It's about the people you have to work with every day. And so you can be productive, but if you're not helping the team be productive, then you're not helping. So, I would take a good hard look at yourself and see if this keeps happening, then it's the person in the mirror. And so you're going to have to go figure out, okay, what do I need to do? And maybe it's assertiveness classes. Who knows what it is, right? But these are things you can work on. You just have to work on them, figure out what they are and work on them. It's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I need to be more friendly. Yeah, just doing your job isn't good enough. You have to, fit into the organization that you're working for. Okay, what's next?
A 40-hour work week is fun. It's the 9 to 5 that sucks. Okay, that's what their problem is. It comes right in the middle of the day. Hello.
Well, it comes in the middle of what you consider the day. I start work at 10, but I don't get up until 9:30, so my job starts right at the beginning of my day. If you get up at 4, right, and you spend 4 hours kind of doodling around, then you go to work it's kind of, big chunk of your day. Can't do much before, can't do much after. But that's just how it is. Find a job that's not 9 to 5. How's that? Find one that fits your rhythms. If you're a night owl, find a job that fits that rhythm. If you're a day person, an early morning person, find something that fits early morning if you can. If not, yeah, you're going to be struggling because you're always going to be working off of your natural body clock, and it's hard. But millions of people do it, and it's acknowledging that it sucks is a coping mechanism. Yeah, it sucks. Sorry. Don't mean to pass it off, but yeah, we've all had to do it. It's a rite of passage, and it's been this way since the beginning of time, and it will be this way till the end of time. It will change. The details will change, but no, there's no evidence in all of history that you get out of having to do the mundane tasks of day-to-day survival. It's just going to happen. It may be filing papers, or it may be hunting, I don't know, elk, but or out plowing the fields with an ox. Who knows what that toil is going to be, but there will always be toil. Just today we get to toil in air conditioned spaces. Those of us that choose to. Or you get more choice in your toil. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Okay, what's next?
I have 2 employees that usually leave work at 6 p.m. They're good, but I don't like that their commitment lasts for work hours only. What should I do as a CEO?
What, you expect their commitment to last for more than work hours?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want that, you're going to have to pay for that. You can get that. People will accept that, but you pay for that. Are you willing to pay for that? Are you willing to compensate them in other ways? You willing to give them flexibility, autonomy? What are you going to, you know, just like we talked about at the beginning, you want a commitment without giving a commitment of equal size. So if you actually want people to commit to your company more than their shifts when they're not on the clock, well, then you're going to have to compensate them for caring about you when they're not on the clock. And you're going to have to do that with money and culture. And guess what? I somehow don't think you have it in you. So maybe you should rethink your CEO strategy on how to deal with people. Because otherwise, this would be a self-explanatory question. Why? Why would they? Just answer that question for yourself. You shouldn't have to ask this to anybody else. Just ask why. Why would they? And if you can't answer it, then they can't either. Okay.
went to happy hour with coworkers. Boundaries crossed. Okay, she drank too much
Uh-huh.
and never shared,
Yeah.
and now she doesn't know what to do.
You pretended it didn't happen. Half of them aren't going to remember anyway because you all drank too much. But this is why you don't go drinking with your coworkers. Insane. So you pretend it didn't happen. You just move on.
Yeah,
It's the only thing you can really do. Because it happened out of work. What you can do, hold a meeting and say, okay, stop it. They don't care that much about you.
really don't.
They really, because
I'm sorry, but they don't.
everybody's got their own. So you just, yeah, well, there'll be behind the scenes. Yes, sure. But guess what? There was anyway. Okay, so what's next?
Positions with early hours.
Gyms, if you want to work at like 24-hour gyms, security guards, janitors, those type of things. Mostly service type things, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're like working at a data center that they need 24-hour people, but generally there's only a couple of people working at a data center at any particular time. So there's not a lot of those. So in terms of sheer numbers, you're talking 20, anything that's open 24 hours, really. And buildings that need security guards that are open for 24 hours. Now, if you want good ones, you get jobs for like at hospitals as janitors and whatnot at hospitals. They pay well. So, things like that. I mean, unless you've got specific skills, but if you've got specific skills, you're not asking this kind of question on Reddit. Okay, what's next?
What do you like after a day's work?
Where'd you go? Oh, what am I like after a day's work?
Yeah, this person is extremely grumpy.
Well, then you probably aren't enjoying your job, or your job is very stressful. And so you're either going to have to get a job you like more, or come up with a plan to change your mood on the way home or as you get home. Some people will go work out, whatever it is, find some way to turn the job off after you get done. Because for me, it really kind of depends. Some days are better than others, right? And normally I just come home. I don't know the same way I am before I left for work, I think. Unless it's been a long day and stressful day or something. Yeah. So but if you're coming home every day, kind of grumpy, then you either have to think about changing your job or find a way to change your mindset on the way home or as soon as you get home. Some people do it with exercise, meditate, whatever it is. Listen to Beethoven on the way home or something. Just try stuff new. Try something new. Turn off the news is also would be my suggestion, because that's not going to help. Okay, what's next?
Work party this Friday. How do I navigate awkward questions as to why I'm not eating? He doesn't like people watching him eat.
Just say you have a particular diet and leave it at that. I just tell people I don't eat. And then they ask, hey, you want something to eat? No. So I've just become comfortable with saying no and just it's fine. So that's ultimately the answer, is just be comfortable with saying no, thank you. And if people want to think weird about you, let them think weird about you. Hey, you're the quirky guy who doesn't eat. It's fine. So, and for those who are closer to you, you can give them the real answer. I don't like eating in public. It gives me anxiety or something. They'll understand. And for everybody else, it's none of their dang business.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Manager doesn't step in and support when an issue is escalated. Am I wrong for feeling frustrated?
No. But the reality is your manager likely hasn't been trained to deal with it, and he doesn't know how. So he's, what they call in management, delegating. And yeah, it's not right, but until he's properly trained, it's his tool, or until someone forces him to do it. So, but yes, you are entirely right to be frustrated, and you can bring it up with them, but then just be blunt, But my guess is he doesn't know how to deal with it. They just no one's trained him, because they often don't train you how to do those things. They give you're good at your job and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you're a manager, but they don't train you how to do those things that you never had to do before. So yes, feel frustrated, but a little empathy. Okay, what's next?
How to deal with negative and awkward tension between me and coworker.
Well, it depends. Oftentimes it's let sleeping dogs lie. Just to escalate, it's not worth it.
It's not.
So just kind of leave these things alone. Yeah, and just don't participate. Right? If it's a one person, a one person feud is someone just flailing. So it's amazing how well not participating in those things works. So, but if it's beyond that type of thing, and your company is big enough, ultimately you deal with supervisors and HR, and you let them deal with it, and hope they're better than the manager. And the last question. Okay, what's next?
I told my boss I'm going to resign, and he offered me twice my current salary if I stay. What should I do?
Well, it depends why you were leaving. Were you leaving for better economic opportunities? Then maybe you stay. If you were leaving because you were feeling undervalued and or cultural unfit, then you probably continue to go. Then you probably leave. So it kind of depends. Because oftentimes what can happen is it's not that they undervalue you, it's they just never took a look at your actual, bosses are busy, and unless you advocate for yourself, you don't actively going to look back because how much value is this person really creating? And when you offered to resign, you said, "Oh crap, I don't want to lose this person. Can we let's sit down with HR and look over the numbers. Oh man, we're underpaying this person. Shoot, no, let's we can double their salary. How do we? Oh man, and they figured out that they've been seriously underpaying you, so they offer you a double salary. And it's not because they didn't value; it's just because they're busy and they didn't look, and you didn't bring it up. And so next time oh, you've kind of hit this point where you're frustrated because you're being undervalued, and they didn't realize that they were undervaluing you because you didn't bring it up. And you weren't the squeaky wheel type of thing. And so now next thing you know, oh, we screwed up. We should have been paying this person a lot more than we have been. And so that's what they offer you. They offer you your value. Now, the question is, you know, are they expecting something else from you? So that's the question I would ask is, okay, what are my expectations now? You've doubled my salary. Great. So what are my expectations? You very rarely get a doubling of salary without getting some added responsibility.
Mm.
Unless, of course, they've been seriously underpaying you and just realized it. So that is the other option, is they have been underpaying you and they just realized it. And you can take it as they've undervalued you, or you can take it as they've been busy and maybe they're not as competent as as they should be. And, or maybe you haven't advocated for yourself. Maybe you didn't ask for a raise and now all of a sudden you're resigning and you hit them, "Well, we didn't know." And so they go and they do some research and oops, we didn't know. You've been sitting there for 3 years happy. So, no waves, no one gets noticed. Anyway, so it really depends on why you're leaving. If you were leaving for pure economic reasons, then, you make the economic decision. If you were leaving for cultural reasons or because you were severely feeling undervalued, then you have a discussion. So, okay, what's next?
I fired a respected employee of my company because we had different visions, but we are now suffering a mass exodus because of that. What should I do as a CEO?
Realize you messed up. Now, it's perfectly fine to have to part ways with an employee because you have different visions. But my guess is you did not do it in a way that people respected. And it's that lack of respect. And, the other issue is apparently a lot of people here were working for you not because of you. You're not the reason people were working for you because they wouldn't leave. People stayed because that other person, and they're going to follow him wherever he's going because he's a valuable person. So you, my friend, are going to have to spend some time in the mirror and probably change your management style. It's not about your vision. It's about your management style. Because you can work with people who have a separate vision if they respect you, but he clearly didn't respect you. And, employees can be upset that you've let somebody go, but they're going to stay if they respect you. They left because they don't want to put up with you. So look in the mirror. All right, we got a couple life questions real quick.
Why do PhD degree holders outside of academia typically not use doctor before their names?
Because they don't want to be confused for a medical doctor. They don't want it to pretend. They don't want anybody to think that they're a medical doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that they're not, they have a doctorate and they could put doctor before the name, but they know what people think that means. Is there a doctor on the plane? Yes, I'm a doctor. A historian, no one cares, right? It's just so that's why it's just they don't want to pretend or something. They don't want people to think there's something that they're not. Okay, what's next?
What innocent movie had bad unintended consequences?
That's a good question because philosophically, can any movie have consequences that are good or bad? Right? It's like a book. Can a book have good or bad consequences, or is it just put out there and something? And nature is what nature will do. So, what innocent movies? Can you think of innocent movies? I have innocent movies that have messages that are actually quite dark. Things like Pinocchio. If you actually watch Pinocchio, it's actually quite dark. The actual story of the original Pinocchio, it's actually quite dark. Think about it. Those little boys, those lost boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were being kidnapped and sold to the slave mines. To the changed into donkeys and sold to the mines. They're children were being sold into slavery. That was the movie. Now, it didn't have bad unintended consequences, so I can't think of one that had bad unintended consequences, quite frankly. But I'm not a movie buff.
Jaws.
Jaws? Sharknado.
Ooh, Sharknado. I
Um,
binge watched them all one night. It was fabulous.
just because they're bad.
They were so phenomenally bad. They were good.
I can respect that. I can actually respect that. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Well, okay, as a kid, you could actually argue something like Faces of Death were, but that's a whole nother thing. Okay, what's next? I actually don't think I meant to paste that one in there. Okay, what's next?
Lawyers always say that settlement is not an admission of guilt. But what reason would I have to settle outside of court if I didn't think I did anything wrong? Wouldn't I fight my accuser until they were defeated?
Well, no, because time and money and costs and emotion, it's cheaper to write a check and move on for some people.
Yeah.
It's simply not worth their time. It costs more to fight than it is to just whatever and move on. Now, is that a bad long-term strategy? Yes. It's like negotiating with terrorists, but you can't actually blame the person that does it. Am I going to go through this thing through court, get all the way to the Supreme Court? Sure, I can win, but it's going to take a decade and $200,000, or I could write a $10,000 check now. Going to write a $10,000 check now, aren't you? How many of us are going to write the 10,000? If you've got it, you're going to write it. You're not going to go through 10 years and court cases and hundreds of hours, and it's not worth it. It's not worth your time. So you write the check. Now, it makes it bad because it encourages that kind of behavior, but it is what it is. Okay, what's next?
What will happen if I remove a fence on my land that I built, despite my neighbor's insistence that I consult their attorney first?
Okay, well, there's two parts to this. One, if it's your fence on your land and you built it, you can generally speaking take it down. But here's my thing: contact his attorney, make him pay the money.
Yeah,
because you're going to take it down anyway. Just contact his attorney, make him pay that money. Now, his attorney may want to make you an offer of some kind of money to keep the fence. And your neighbor doesn't want to be the ones to deal with the negotiation. So have the conversation. If your neighbor wants the fence, he can put it up himself, right? But maybe it's just cheaper to use the fence that's already there.
maybe he's trying to get out of the full cost of a fence.
He already didn't pay the fence. He doesn't have to pay the right. So, but if he's going to if you take the fence down and he's going to put another fence up anyway, you might as well just sell him the fence. You don't have to pay for getting the fence taken down. And you get paid by your neighbor. I think it's probably the most likely thing. The neighbor simply doesn't want to deal with the negotiation, so he's getting the lawyer to do it. You can still say no, but call the lawyer would be my thing.
Why not?
Yeah. Hey, at worst, you're making the guy spend the money to hire the lawyer to have a conversation with you. That's what, $300. So you're costing the neighbor money. So, but my guess is the neighbor wants to buy the fence. Okay, what's next? Oh, we're on into our intimate questions.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Let's see about these. Alternatives for good boy. Okay, now that has BDSM connotations
Yes.
to her, and she wants to be
kind of insulting to me, but okay.
She wants to be encouraging to her boyfriend.
Yeah.
And build him up.
Stop overthinking it. Just react naturally. And for the love of God, don't say good boy. That's insulting. stop it. Stop trying too hard. It's going to come off as phony and you're going to ruin the mood. So stop it.
She just can't have a pet name or
It's just annoying.
encouragement
It's
or
just a distraction. Where
oh.
does that come from? Just stop it. Y'all are thinking about, just stop overthinking these kinds of things, right? Just be present is the best thing you can do in that situation. Not thinking about the right response, just respond as naturally you as we would is the best thing to do in that situation. This isn't rocket science. Don't over. That's my suggestion. Okay, what's next?
Okay, I feel guilty if I have sex with a girl how many times and then don't want a relationship. This makes dating anxious. How do you guys combat this? Okay, you're not dating. You're interviewing for a bed buddy.
Well, no, they're dating, but if the answer to this is actually quite easy. Stop having sex until you know you want to have a relationship with somebody. That's what this anxiety is telling you. It's telling you you're violating something down within you. It's telling you something is telling you you don't actually like this. You damn well know it. So stop it. You just don't like the answer. You want the best of both worlds. Guess what? Can't have it. Pick one. And you dang well know which one you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked the question. So stop having sex until you know you want a relationship. That's the answer.
The girls will be lining up.
Or they won't, but you'll be happier. Doesn't matter if they line up or not. They'll be happier. You'll be happier.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you'll be happier that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because your body is telling you is that you're violating something that you're not behaving in a way that is consistent with your beliefs. That's why you're feeling guilty, my friend. Because you know you're doing something that is to you wrong. And you're the one who gets to make these choices. Your conscience has made a choice and you're not listening. So listen to your conscience. Okay.
Feeling guilty for liking attention from others. So she likes she's married, but she likes dressing up. She goes out with her husband and she gets dressed a little provocatively,
Mm-hmm.
and she gets the looks and the comments and the stuff,
Yeah.
and she likes that. And she's feeling guilty about that.
She likes the little emotional boost, but she feels guilty that she likes the little emotional boost that she's getting.
Yeah.
Maybe because she feels like she's leading people on. And
maybe.
So she's feeling like she's sending a message that's not true. But if you're going out with your husband, they know it. Everybody's onto the game and it's perfectly fine. You're playing human. You're fine. That's what people do when they go out, right? You go out, you dress your best just because you like it. You do it for you, not for them. You just like the fact that they notice.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not, as long as you're not leading anybody on to create relationships that doesn't exist, you're well within your,
there you go.
Yeah, you're fine. Okay.
Crying during sex. Okay. And this has happened to me. I have become so overwhelmed.
Yeah, it can happen. I wouldn't overthink it. It can also be an emotional reaction to trauma, I suppose. That could happen as well. But I wouldn't overthink it unless it's an emotional reaction to trauma. Just weird things happen during sex. Sex is weird. It is what it is. It would be my answer to this 99% of the time. Maybe even a little higher. There is that 1% where something can trigger a trauma response, and that's a whole different thing. So without knowing that, that's why I leave a little caveat for the potential trauma response. But yeah, for the grand scheme of things, wouldn't worry about it. Okay, what's next?
My girlfriend hated her vagina. What do I say? Okay, she doesn't like the way it looks. And she didn't want him to look at it.
Okay. Well,
And men are visual creatures.
yeah,
And
we pretty
that's
much like
one
all
of
of
the
them.
reasons why he was there.
We pretty much like the look of all of them. So
Yeah, I know that's not. If it's there, it's good,
no,
right?
well, one, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and trust me, at that stage, the look of your lady parts is not what he finds beautiful. So, and this is probably a deeper thing. She's probably one of these. I would guess she has an issue with body image in general, not just her lady parts.
Okay.
And so that is just the current focus. It's my guess.
Okay.
So I don't know. What do I say? Nothing. Well, that's just you can say you find it beautiful and all that stuff, but you really can't see anything when you're down there. So I don't really understand what it's all about anyway. But yeah. I don't know. You just try to reassure her that you love the look of everything about her. There you go.
That's all you can do is reassure her.
Yeah, because if you spend too much time on it, then
it gets weird.
Yeah, it's its own thing. So
Yeah.
you reassure her and move on. Okay.
You want to read that one for me?
Well, ladies, is oral enough for you?
Yes.
Yes. Well, depending upon circumstances, right? Anything can be enough, Sometimes
But you got to really put a lot of effort into it, unfortunately, if you're going to do that.
yeah. Well, it works the same way.
Exactly. If you're just going to get oral, don't you want a lot of, attention?
Well, yeah, it's the only way it works.
Yeah.
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 But there's all types of engagement that people can enjoy, from a quickie to a weekend, right? So whatever, as long as you and your partner are relatively in sync, you guys are doing fine.
I've heard this Asian 3-day thing.
Like I said, from a 5-minute quickie to a weekend. Knock yourselves out, well, don't knock yourselves out, because that can happen too. Accidents do happen during sex.
Yeah, careful.
Yeah, so be careful out there. Okay, so what's next? The
last one. How many single people shave down there? Okay, he went out on a first date. And he wasn't expecting to be intimate. And she was shaved.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, she was expecting this?
Well, the fact is, yes, because she was, because you ended up there, and that's not going to happen if she didn't want it. So she was she was in the mood, shall we say. And if the date went half well, you were getting lucky that night. Now, she may be a regular shaver anyway, and it may not have made a difference. She may have been as prepared as she always is, or she may like that kind of. There's no way to know that particular answer. But yeah, my guess is unless you really screwed something up, he was getting lucky that night.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. Just a guess. Doesn't mean anything else, but the fact is that she was ready, and yeah. So, hey man, women need it, have their urges too. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh man, during menopause? I'd be sitting at my desk. I'd have to grip the corners of the desk, put my head down. Waves of lust would come over me, and I'm like, God, this is what 18-year-old boys go through, man.
Yes. Yeah, and they're too young to even have the slightest clue. At least you guys get to go through it when you're old age. And
Well, yeah, I was 40. I went through kind of early.
So, all right, that's it for us tonight, as you guys have way more information than you really needed to know. And again, you can find us at latenightLove.us. You can send us comments, questions, and letters to love@latenightLove.us. We want to thank all of our listeners on KUBU 96.5 FM. And hey, I think there's do we air after cast and crew call? No, you can. There's a cast and crew call that you all, for those who are interested in filmmaking of some form or acting, there's go look that up at accesssacramento.org. Which, of course, that's not going to make the show anyway, so I don't know why I said that. Anyway, good night, and we will see you guys next week. And please remember, wait, hold on, I'm slow. And please remember to blah, 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 blah. And please remember to love everybody. Good night.